Hello there, and welcome to the Different Views Common Ground podcast. In this upcoming episode, myself and the rest of the hosts will be discussing who we feel won the first presidential debate of 2020 between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. We'll give you our thoughts, initial reactions, and who we feel won the debate, as well as debate the topics brought up ourselves. So stay tuned and enjoy the show.
News, politics, culture, current events. We all have different views, but we stand on common ground. We all have different views, but we stand on common ground. Different views, common ground. Different views.
So, welcome to the Different Views Common Ground podcast. I am Johnny Bones. I'm joined by Ralphie Nades, Walter Sobchak, Arnold Reagan, and we got our guest Kipper in the house. So, how's everybody feeling about the debates last night? Just take a big deep breath. Feeling pretty good? All right. So, we're going to go ahead and start with you, Kipper. In the past, we've all kind of gone through what our basic background is and our political views. So if you could just do a quick spiel of what where do you lean politically? What are the most important issues to you? Like your top three big issues, and yeah, just how you feeling today about that as well.
So typically I lean a little bit more conservative when it comes to economic issues and governmental issues. I'm a business owner. I run two businesses, so that probably creates that influence. But I also like to look at everything in this world with some sort of perspective and context. And I think in today's world, a lot of that is missing from the public forum.
And if you had three big political issues that you're really passionate about, what would they be?
Healthcare is definitely an issue. I have probably a completely different opinion on healthcare than most would actually have to say. Foreign policies. Number 2 would be healthcare, and number 3 would be federal and state government issues.
Cool. Yeah. No. So that definitely gives us some insight on your beliefs as we start talking about that. I guess we'll start off. Just want to kind of go around the room and hear what you all think about the debates. I'm gonna actually get a little timer going up here because I'm gonna try and do a better job than Chris Wallace did yesterday and give you guys 2 minutes, uninterrupted. Your initial reaction to the debate. How did you feel? How did you feel after it? Kind of try and get it all out in those 2 minutes. I'll start with you, Walter, and
Um,
on the clock.
I don't even think I need 2 minutes. Like most people, it was definitely a shit show. Very disappointing from both candidates. I think I really expected Trump to just steamroll Biden. Like that was kind of my expectations. I don't think that necessarily happened. I think Trump's very aggro usually. I think that worked really well against Hillary. I think Biden is like a good defense because he's so nothing pretty much. Like he just he has a few talking points and he was definitely stuttering at first and kind of doing the pre-dementia thing that everybody talks about. I think he got a little warmed up and a little better later on. I thought the moderator was pretty fair, and I know a lot of people don't feel that way. From my perspective, it seemed like Trump came at Wallace before Wallace came at Trump, and that's how I saw it anyway. It seemed like he turned towards Wallace and started arguing with his question, which probably shouldn't do to a moderator of a debate. The guy works for Fox News too, so I mean, a lot of people are claiming he's very biased. I don't buy that at all. overall, not a lot of productive discussion happened. A lot of yelling over each other. A lot of mature stuff on both sides. Biden told him to shut up at one point. Probably would have done the same because he's being pretty obnoxious. Yeah, I don't feel like I took away anything meaningful from the debate at all. That's
Yeah.
pretty much all I got.
Fair enough. And you had 8 seconds left, so good job. Next, I'll go over to you, Arnold. What were your initial reactions to the debate last night?
I mean, I just think like everyone else, I think it was a complete shit show. I don't like Chris Wallace, and I think a lot of the questions in the beginning were kind of skewed more towards. And I think I even said it before Trump did. I felt like very in the beginning it was like Trump was debating Wallace until there was like some sort of switch, and I definitely saw there was more stuttering in the beginning from Biden. And I do agree with Walter that he did warm up after like 10, 15 minutes. I think overall it was a shit show. I don't think that any people that are on the fence were swayed one way or the other. I think everyone who clearly has an idea of who they're voting for, was just kind of disappointed with how it was. But I mean, the debate is to accomplish swaying voters who are really unsure of, which candidate they're leaning towards. And I mean, overall, I'm just kind of excited to see the next debate if there is actually one, and I'm just hoping that both candidates can kind of address the issues in a better way next time. Whether they put them in a booth and they literally mute them once they exceed their time. Like, I don't know what needs to be done, but both of them were talking over each other. And I know Wallace works at Fox News, but he's definitely leans the most left on anyone in that network. So I don't think that was definitely a fair choice. I mean, if you're going to put somebody that leans left, that's fine. But then I think that you should follow up with a candidate that leans more right, or not a candidate, a moderator that leans more right. I'm not saying throw Tucker Carlson up there and have him go ahead and do the debate, but someone that is a little bit more centralized. And I mean, Chris Wallace is definitely the best choice, I think, in Fox News. But
Timer. But yeah, any final wrap up there?
No.
Oh, cool. And we'll stick with you, Kipper, since you're on the mic already. What were your initial reactions?
I had to turn it off probably towards the end. I thought I lost some brain cells. Not gonna lie. There is, like I said earlier, there's zero context and depth in any of these conversations. I think from a strategic standpoint, Trump tried to separate Biden from the rest of the factions that exist in the Democrat Party, such as the Sanders voters. And if you looked at the 2016 election, once Bernie Sanders wasn't on the ballot, most of those people didn't even end up voting because they didn't like Hillary or Trump, right? So I think strategically, Trump was trying to pull and separate Biden from the rest of the Sanders crew and the crazies that exist in the party. And when he's like, oh, I am the Democrat Party, I think it just kind of still shows the disconnect that exists in the Democrat Party, that there isn't that much unity. So strategically, from that standpoint, I think he did a great job. But from the rest of the conversations that were going on between both of them, it was like stupid because they use fake reports with sentences that make a headline that take a fraction of what a statement is said, not finishing the topic of the discussion from that article or from that statement that's said, and that seems to be making mainstream media and headline news today, which doesn't make any sense, right? They make this phony headline to get you to click on it because that's all they want, and then when you go and read the article and you read the context and the facts that are actually written in the article, it's completely different from the headline. But in yesterday's discussions, they were just using headlines and topics of headlines as a means of a debate, which, in my opinion, was really dumb.
Yeah.
So that was my take on it.
Fair enough. Ralphie, we'll let you go. What are your
Okay.
thoughts?
To me, the debate kind of just revealed that both of these candidates have terrible strategies this time around. So Trump in 2016, he kind of like positioned himself as anti-war. He talked about promising to give people health care. He said a lot of these things during his campaign that honestly made sense and connected with people, in my opinion. This time around, his whole strategy is to kind of paint Biden as a socialist, which no one in their right mind actually fucking believes, honestly. The only people who actually believe that are definitely people who are already committed to voting to Trump. So I don't think he's going to earn any votes by doing that. And Biden's kind of allowing Trump to push him to the right and push him away from those positions. Like the only policy positions that came out last night pretty much were the Green New Deal and universal health care. Trump basically accused Biden of being like all in on those policy positions, and he's just not. He promised to veto universal health care if it passed in the House and the Senate during his presidency. So he's not fucking for universal health care. Same thing with Green New Deal. Like, he doesn't support that. So I think Trump's strategy is just inaccurate, and it's not going to gain him any supporters. And Biden's just kind of abandoning the base, basically people like me, people on the far left who actually believe in those positions: universal health care, Green New Deal, raising the minimum wage, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think Biden's really gaining any voters either, because by saying you're against those things, you're not going to gain any Trump voters. Like, they're gonna just stick with Trump. They're not going to switch over just because you say that you're against those positions. So I just feel like they both have terrible strategy. Trump's strategy in 2016 was so much better than it is this time around. He seems like he's just lost and he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about.
Time. Makes sense. So I'll go through my little spiel here. My initial reactions is messier than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I expected it to be a messy debate and experience, but I think it got a little more out of hand than what I expected. I felt kind of what you were saying, Walter, that Trump was more on the aggressive, on the attack side all night. And I think Biden was just playing defense for most of the night. I think there are a lot of, like Kipper said, a lot of personal attacks, a lot of attacks made that weren't really verified stories. They're kind of like these headline things. And it just seemed like there was a lot of barbs thrown back and forth that had no weight behind them. And any time that Biden even attempted to talk policy, I felt like he maybe would for 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes, like 5 seconds, and then would just get thrown off again. Overall, I feel if you're not committed to a candidate and you're undecided or in the middle or on the fence, I feel sorry for you, because you really didn't. I can't see how you would have gotten anything out of last night from either candidate. I do think there's a difference, though, in Biden than there was with Hillary on how he's handling the attacks or the barbs. I think he's a little bit. I mean, you expect it from Trump, but I think Biden's a little bit more defensive and will talk back, like saying "shut up, man," which I think is a little bit different than Hillary, and I don't know whether that helps them or hurts them. So I did think that was a change, though.
I cringed at that, dude, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. I think we all agree it's pretty cringy. So anyway, let's just kind of open it up. What were some of the points? Like, just how you feel? There was some heat, I know, in our chat yesterday. But what do you guys think were like some of the points that Trump maybe won on? And what are some of the points that you think Biden maybe won on?
I don't think there's any points that or anything that existed in the entire debate. I would be so humbled to add that.
Kind of agree, honestly.
There was zero depth, zero context, all just conjecture and manipulation on probably both sides.
One thing that Trump has a disadvantage at is he's the incumbent, and he had to deal with this crazy thing that happened, right? This virus that nobody could have predicted, hasn't happened in 100 years, right? And that's just an unfortunate thing for him. Like he had to deal with that, and for that reason, we have kind of dropped the ball as a country dealing with the whole thing. And I feel like his response was just like, "Oh well, Joe, you would have let more people die. You would have done way worse." Not substantiated by anything. There's literally nothing to back that up. It's just kind of like a dodge, and I don't think it worked on anybody. I could be wrong though. What do you guys think, Kipper, Arnold? Was that
Uh,
effective?
I would love to hit that note because Trump downplayed this from the get go, but yet on the other hand, his administration unleashed the private sector that does their job the best. The supply chains that are all online that exist in this country are not government run; they're all run by private enterprises. And I would suggest, based on the extreme demand that came into the marketplace in in February, March, there for all the supplies that were needed. I mean, all of the demand shot up probably 300x from what a normal market needs, right? Even toilet paper, right? So I think the administration allowed the free market to actually exercise what they're good at doing, and it actually allowed our country to get through most of the horror, if you will, that existed in the beginning of the COVID crisis. And I don't even call it a crisis. I think most of it was all sensationalism and hype, because if you actually look at the numbers today, when Trump was poo-pooing it back in January, February, he's not wrong, because if you actually do look at the numbers, we have 204,000 quote unquote deaths of COVID today in September, the end of September, which is about 7 months now into this nonsense. And if you look at the death rate, they even said that they were liberal of counting these deaths as COVID deaths. So if you would have had a heart attack and you had COVID at the same time, they were calling it a COVID death. Well, did you actually die from COVID or did you die from a heart attack? Likewise, cancer patients and all these people that were in stage 4 or 5 cancer, or whatever it might have been, that had COVID that died, didn't necessarily die from COVID. They died from the disease that they were going to already die from. It just happened to speed it up, and it's just an unfortunate part of what this virus is doing. That being said, they say 204,000 people. If you look at the rate of that death rate, I would say 150,000 of that was in the beginning between March and June. Since June, they might have added 50,000 deaths. So the companies that do the treatments and the therapies and the doctors and the actual private enterprises that aren't government agencies that do their job normally, figured out ways to treat this through the science world that exists in the country, around the world, to create the therapies to save more lives, right? So one man is not a king, one man is not in control, and I think Trump exercised that perfectly, and he allowed each state to respond accordingly to each state's situation. And that's the republic that we live in. We live in a republic where states can do what those states choose to do. And at this point, you're probably watching population move based on those decisions, because that's exactly the reason why the country was set up. We don't live in a dictatorship. We don't live in a communist country. We live in a free world. And each state is different and unique. And Trump just allowed the systems across the board, whether it was government agencies, government functionality, and private sector, to do what they all do best. And I think he handled it 100% spot on.
In response to that?
And let me just finish one last thing. Just one last thing that I want to mention. You're shutting down schools, right? If you go and you look at CDC reports, right? Forget the sensationalism of the news and the fakeness that goes on across Fox, CNN, and all of them. They're all fake.
Hold on. Can I stop you? We're getting a little bit off topic.
Okay,
this is not a COVID episode. This is about the debate. And what I said to you was, what Trump said was that, Joe, you would have let more people die. That was his only response. Everything you said is very nice. I disagree with most of it, but it's not what Trump said. He said, Joe, you would have done worse. That was his only rebuttal. Do you think that was a good response? Or do you think he should have
No,
elaborated
it's
on the things that you said?
Absolutely. This is what he should have been saying and talking about. And
I agree.
if you look, they started talking about shutting down schools and this stuff, and Biden was Biden's like all for it, whatever, keeping the safety, et cetera. But if you go and you look at the CDC statistics, there's 61 million kids between the ages of 0 and 15 in this country. And if you look at the COVID death rate, the mortality rate, not cases, because cases are irrelevant to all of this. I could have COVID and be perfectly fine, right? In fact, I would say 90% of the people my age that caught COVID, all of them were fine, like pretty much like a normal flu or whatever, and it went away, right? But so 47 deaths between the ages of 0 and 15 in this country from COVID, right? COVID-related deaths in this country. So that's far, far, far less than 1% of a mortality rate. So if you put that in perspective,
You also have middle-aged teachers working in those schools that
Yeah.
aren't in that age range. So, but yeah, I want to keep it
And
on
the
like
grandparents the
the
kids go back home
debate
to.
topic.
yeah, no, I mean, that's my opinion on the lack of performance on Trump's part, and just even the moderator just putting context on the whole thing.
Ralphie?
Well, I was going to talk about the whole mask situation, how the government was prepared to send out masks to like everybody in the country basically, and the White House basically like rejected it and turned down that whole idea. Like, do you think, like you mentioned that Trump handled this perfectly? What do you think about that whole situation where he basically prevented the masks from being distributed? Do you believe in the masks and their effectiveness?
I don't think it's relevant, honestly, to spread to any of this, because I'll just be straight up. I go to New York City every day, even through COVID. I never stopped once. I've traveled on airplanes, which, by the way, have the best air filtration system than a bus or a car, anything like that. And I've been wearing the same throwaway mask for like 6 months. I don't even throw it away, right? I mean, I have like a couple of them that I cycle, right? Because obviously, like, I'll sweat or something. But like, just to make my point, like, I don't think that it does anything in terms of stopping the spread or slowing the spread, because I am COVID free. So me walking around in a mask isn't doing anything except for me inhaling my own,
Wait, what?
breath.
What exactly makes you think that not wearing a mask doesn't help spread it? Like, just your
Because
anecdotal evidence?
I'm healthy, right? So why should I be wearing a mask? You
It's
see what I
not
mean?
all
Like,
about you, though.
what am I spreading? My
That's
allergies?
that goes back to what you mentioned earlier, though. Like people who are younger who have the virus, like they're positive for the virus, but they're not hospitalized. They don't have any serious side effects. Like you could actually have it in theory, as long as you're not getting tested. Like you don't really know if you have it, especially if you're a young person.
Is that true though?
You said it.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can go down that road, but I mean, we can't actually prove.
There's no
that
point.
nowadays.
There's no point.
There's no point, right? Because it's
Yeah.
all. I'm not a scientist or a doctor.
To tag onto the mask issue, like look at Japan, dude. Like they had less of an economic shutdown than we did, is my understanding, but everybody in Japan wears masks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you look at their numbers and their number of cases, number of deaths, it's so much less of a percentage and so much less significant than us. And that's really the only thing they did different. The only thing they did different was everybody wears masks. And
Let's hear
I
from
visited
Arnold,
them in
though.
like February. I was in Japan in
Yeah.
like February.
I want to hear from
Everybody wore
Arnold on
masks.
this.
let's
Everybody
hear
had
from
them.
Arnold, and then let's move on from COVID. We're going to do an actual COVID episode, so yeah, we can have you come back on, Kipper, and we'll talk all
Sure,
about
yeah.
it.
True.
I got
we
a
were actually
whole
planning that this week, and then the debates came on. So,
Yeah.
Arnold,
For the most part, I think the masks. I don't have a problem wearing a mask. That's something that I differ from Kipper on. I think masks are totally helpful. I think that, and like you said, Ralphie, about, if you're healthy and you're going back home to a grandparent and you have the virus and you don't even know, like, you could potentially spread it. I mean, the only
Is
thing
that
is,
true though?
I don't. The thing is, I don't know. The thing is, the CDC has told us so many different things, right? So I think going back to the point that Walter brought up, though, I think that Trump should have elaborated on it. I don't think that he should have just said, Joe, there would have been more deaths if you were president, which I agree with. I agree with that. I don't think that.
Why though? I want to hear about that.
I don't think he would have reacted. I don't think that he's able to react. I don't think he's competent to be president. If this was 5 years ago and you said Joe Biden's the candidate against President Trump, I would have been like, okay. And I would have said, maybe I would have voted for Joe Biden. Because I'm not like picking a side or anything like that. Like, if you threw up a better candidate than Donald Trump, than Joe Biden, you threw up Tulsi Gabbard, threw up Pete, or maybe Andrew Yang, there would have been maybe a fighting chance for me to back the Democratic Party on this side.
Well, do you think that Biden would have also said that it's not a big deal and it's just like the flu and you don't have to worry about it, it's going to disappear? Like, is that something that Biden would say, or is that something that only Trump would say?
Or stop the distribution of masks.
I mean, the CDC said from the beginning that masks weren't even effective. I mean,
but they changed that, though. We all know that they are now.
They changed everything, though.
That's the thing, is they nail that timeline.
They've changed the CDC. The point is, I'm not even going back to we're not even talking
just
about.
Just put a pause on that for a second. CDC and these government bureaucrats have nothing to do with Trump. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with Trump. Trump isn't the CDC. CDC is comprised of probably a couple hundred, if
I
not
know.
maybe
What I said was, would Biden have tweeted that COVID is not as bad as the flu and that it's going to disappear when the weather gets warm? Biden probably, logically, you can say that he probably would not have done that, and therefore probably less people would have died. Right? That's a pretty easy.
Why is that logical?
I don't think Biden would have tweeted that.
I think the entire COVID thing is completely insignificant on the grand scheme of things, and I'm not trying to sound like it doesn't exist and there aren't people dying from it. I know that that's the case, but if you go and you look at CDC statistics from 2018, on average,
That's not on trial here, though. It's Trump's statement that Biden would have killed more people if he were in charge. Where's the credence in that? There's none.
Trump is just
trying to. What would have Biden done differently that would have caused more deaths? I guess that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I don't think no matter what anybody would have done would have changed the outcome, to be honest with you. I think it's just all political jargon. Whether there's more government spending or more government programs or less government-ish. I mean, like, because it's not government that's saving people's lives. It's doctors and nurses that just have a job, and that's their job, save people's lives. Figure out the best therapies and save their life. It's nothing to do with the government.
But then how do you explain all the different outcomes across the globe of like different countries and how the death rate is so different in different countries depending on how they responded to the disease?
Do you believe those numbers? Do you believe that China is actually reporting real numbers and that
I wouldn't refer to China. I don't know if I believe China's numbers.
Not just China.
What about Japan, Sweden, etc.?
I don't even believe our own statistics, if I might add. I don't know how they're calling a COVID case. I know that in this country, there's been instances, like in Florida, I know somebody that applied to get a COVID test, never showed up, but still got a response that they came back positive, even though they never even showed up for the test, right? So there's all sorts of scams and frauds that were going on in these minute clinics or whatever these institutions are that exist because the government was paying out accordingly to per test, right? So there was a financial fraud going on between the government and these distribution centers, which is no surprise to me. Which brings us to a whole nother conversation: is should the government be doing these things?
Yeah. Well, to bring us back to the debate last night, I think if that's what you believe, I'm more in line with Walter and Ralphie on this topic. But Trump should have definitely brought those points up during the debate. He didn't really do much of that. From what I saw, and I think what Ralphie and Walter and I saw, at least, he just kind of said, well, you wouldn't have done any better, Joe, but didn't really provide any argument for why that would have happened. Just kind of said that.
I also don't think he really even had the time to do so. I think that there was a lot of times where he was interrupted just as much as Biden was interrupted.
I don't think so.
No way.
I
No
think it's
way.
objectively false, dude.
100%.
You can't even argue that, dude. He
Wallace
was
interrupted-
driving the whole conversation.
Wallace interrupted Trump multiple times before he could even get the question out. I like I said, I thought that
Trump did interrupt Wallace. quite a
I'm,
bit there.
dude, I'm not. That's not something that I'm arguing with. I'm not saying that Trump didn't interrupt anyone. I'm just saying it was equally interrupted.
It was a poor for.
I
Poor
think the
for-
interruption scale goes Trump, then Biden, then Wallace, in that order, most to least.
Yeah,
But
I'll agree with you on that one.
And I mean, this kind of goes back to the tenor of the debate. Like we kind of all said, is really aggressive, right? Not a lot was done. The question I have is, who's causing that? Who's causing that to be that way? Do you think if you put somebody else up there against Trump, would it still have had that same tone to it? Or would it, let's say you put like someone not Trump up against Biden, do you think it would have been as aggressive as it was?
I think it's all political theater. It's all designed, and it's just a sign of the times that we're in, with everything that's going on in the world, in the government, and that's my perspective. I think that these two guys are up there for a reason. They're put there for whatever that reason is, and yeah.
So you think
That's
if you replaced Trump with Mitt Romney or Ted Cruz, it would have been just as aggressive between that candidate and Biden?
No, because Mitt Romney is not really a conservative. He's probably leans more left than most Republicans.
We're gonna have to talk more about that.
And then I would also venture to say that somebody like a Ted Cruz, yeah, he's a less aggressive guy. I mean, he's passionate of what he believes in, but who knows?
The whole time I was watching the debate, I kept thinking, like, what if it was Bernie instead of Biden? Like, what would this debate look like? And to be honest, like, the more I thought about it, I feel like it would have been the same exact fucking debate.
It would have been the same thing.
The same exact fucking debate.
And that's
I think it would have
like-
been worse. Bernie's more aggro than Biden. I think. Like he can throw it. He can throw it down more so than Biden. Biden's just kind of there, you know.
Yeah.
I just think the philosophies that used to be talked about a lot in this country are no longer spoken about, and all we're getting is just different ideologies and conjecture and just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. Last night was a bunch of nonsense. If we all agree on that. I actually left like midway through to go pick up food. I had it on pause, and when I got back, I was almost like not wanting to continue it because I was just like, eh. But I wanted to see it through to the end. All right, so I mean, they talked about COVID. I think there wasn't much going on there. The other point that we haven't brought up yet was the whole racial injustice section that everyone's talking about today, about Trump not condemning white nationalism or white supremacists, and then mentioned the Proud Boys to stand back but stand by or something like that. What are your thoughts on him not saying that?
Biden asked him. Biden said, address the whatever boys. He asked for that. He said, who should I address? And that's the person.
Wallace asked first. He said, will you disavow white supremacists? And he said, who do you want me to disavow? And Biden said, the Proud Boys. And that's when you got the response.
Yeah. So do I think that he could have elaborated on the response better and used better words? Yeah. I think that stand back and stand by is not really the proper, like, that's not what you say. But I think he made a point today when he was asked when he was on the White House garden, he was asked, what did you mean by that last night? And I'm pretty sure he made it clear. He's also denounced white supremacy in the past.
When?
I don't think he addressed it properly.
When did he denounce it in the past?
I'll have to look for that.
Because I don't remember.
It's so easy to do. I just don't. I guess it's the genius of Trump where he says the right thing so that he kind of gets by, but also white supremacists are part of his voting base, the same way that part of Biden's voting base is, Antifa, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know about
So-
that one.
it's a strategic thing for him to not really come out and tell him to fuck off on the air. I think it's strategically smart, but it's for that reason. But he's getting a lot of backlash in the press for it.
I think Trump has a way higher percentage of white supremacy support than Biden has Antifa support. I will say that. I think most
interesting
Antifa people don't like Biden.
Well, I think it's interesting because you talk about like race and stuff like that. Like Biden has been involved with like KKK stuff and all sorts of crazy stuff over the last 40, 50 years of his life, and he doesn't ever seem to be called out on any of it. And then when you just go back
What KKK
to
stuff?
Yeah, I'd like to know more about that.
pull it up right now.
He opposed busing.
True.
Yeah. Mandatory busing for minorities to be able to go to quote unquote white schools. You definitely opposed that.
Yeah,
he
that's
supported
not.
the crime bill,
Yeah.
which definitely led to a higher incarceration rate.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
his record on race issues is not good. That there is
That's true.
Trump made some good points on
That's
that.
true.
I will say that. That's probably
Yeah.
the only time during the debate I was like, damn, Trump actually has a decent burn there.
Trump policy in terms of economic policy has probably been the best for Black America, for the Black community in this country. Because if you just look at like what drives the human spirit, right? It's success. It's what you find to be good at, right? And those are the things that drive you in this world. And if you just live off of a government program, you're more bound to just do bad things, such as drugs or murder or whatever else exists in these cultural communities. It happens even in with the white community as well in this country.
Hold up, I gotta stop you there. Do you think it's because of the government programs, or do you think it's because of their economic status and the fact that they need those government programs because they're in a shitty situation? They don't have options.
Well,
they don't have.
I think that if you look at the Black community in this country in the 1970s, it was thriving 10 times more than what we have today, and I think a lot of that is subjected to family life and culture, and I think a lot of pop culture and these guys that exploit Black communities around this country are leading the youth in bad directions. So drugs, alcohol, the rapping, and this type of pop culture. I mean, there's no economic value to the world with those things unless you're selling music, I guess you will. Like if you can sell your music, you can make a living, right? But like most of these kids grow up thinking that they're just going to become like a rap star, and that's just like the influence that they get from their leaders in their communities or their pop culture, or like LeBron James is a successful, basketball player, but like, how is he actually influencing the next generation when he's out there?
I promise school that he has kids going to, and then they get promised scholarships.
Yeah, he's done some good stuff.
I
I mean, there's no question, but like, I'm just saying, like, there should be more of a bright light amongst these communities to drive their spirits to want to do good things, right? What makes them
How do
happy?
we accomplish that, though?
You think Trump is that bright light?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with Trump. That's what my point is. I think it has everything to do with Americanism and the philosophies that drive this country. Like this country is founded on like no taxation, right? Without representation. Exactly like what's created this economy in this world is thriving through success and profits and capitalism, right? And what drives that is people find things that they're good at doing, and that's how they figure out how to make a living or become creative in some sort of sector in this society to compound that success and in what they do, right? So why, if somebody's stuck on a program, right, they need that program to live, right? I'm not arguing with that. But if you give them just these programs and these scholarships, they never really learn and figure out from a deeper intellectual perspective how to drive success. What is the mechanics that drive that success, right? I run a business, right? what are the mechanics of my brain and my enthusiasm and my functionality that drives me to have that success, right? I've learned that by actually doing. But if you have these programs that just keep people on a program, which is exactly what they're designed to do, they never actually learn the mechanics that go into success and whatever that success looks like, because every person's different, right? You enjoy doing whatever you enjoy doing. Everybody's got their own shtick, right? And that's what you stick to, right? We're a creature of habit. So if you are a creature of habit, how do you break the habit of getting off these government programs? Because government programs just keep people where they are at. And in this country, there's
Yeah.
there's four ways you can.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. How does Trump or Biden play into all this stuff that you're talking about?
Trump's economy. He does like a lot of government spending, which I don't necessarily like domestically. But I would like to say that most of his tax incentives have driven success of corporations to spend more money, hire more people, create more success, more talent, and hire people, right? That's what creates jobs and people's livelihood and success and economy and a civil society and life in a household with two parents working, making an income to send their kids to school, to have a good life and do the same thing, right? Rinse and repeat. So I don't think that it's like Trump exactly is the answer, but I think some of his policies and the tax laws that have been put into place allow for this economic success. And I would suggest that that the unemployment rate dropping, obviously before COVID, has been super low, probably the lowest in 100 years, is due to the government pulling back their tax rates and allowing the companies to invest in their own infrastructure, their own people, creating new ideas, creating new products, creating new softwares, whatever the hell that looks like. And they are hiring the best of the best, the people that have the talent. So I don't think a Biden program, a Biden government program, and another package of bureaucrats giving money away through whatever they do, which is usually fraud anyways, is actually going to change anyone's life.
What about like American Airlines and United Airlines that took bailout money from COVID and now they're laying off their staff?
I don't think they should have bailed them out.
But you just said that you need to give it to the corporation so that they hire people.
Contradictory to what you said.
No, a government bailout is not the same as a tax incentive. And like you go back,
similar though. It's almost the same thing.
Go back to the 2008 financial crisis where they bailed out GM, right? The government bailed out GM because they're quote unquote too big to fail, right? But if you go and you look at today in 2020, 12 years later, they're about to go bankrupt again because the company just straight up sucks. They build shit product. They don't follow consumer demands. They're not like a Tesla where they're innovative enough to drive a market. They just suck. You know, like Ford at least somehow figures it out. They're creating cool products. I mean, like Ford never got a bailout, or if they did, I don't know. I don't think they did they? No, they didn't. Right? So like these like United should fail. United sucks. If anybody on this thing on the podcast here has ever flown United, you know it's a crappy experience and it's not enjoyable. Yeah. Whereas if you go and you pay an extra couple bucks and you fly on a Delta airline, if you spend an extra $100, you know you're at least getting a little bit nicer seat. The service is a little bit friendlier, and it's a little bit more enjoyable of a flight. So, you know, like I don't think the government should be bailing these companies out. I think if these companies would just go out of business, it would probably...
Hold on. They're not failing because they don't give customer service as good as Delta. They're failing because there's a fucking global pandemic happening. Right?
Failing because of COVID. Right?
Yeah, let's get back to the debate, though.
Good idea.
So going back to the race issue, I think that's where we started.
Biden with the KKK. He actually did. It was Byrd, Senator Byrd. Joe Biden praised former KKK leader Robert Byrd as a mentor. This is after he passed away. Byrd was a Democratic senator, but was lead of a KKK chapter. So There's
like
your.
in the 50s though, and then he like converted.
That doesn't
Like,
matter. He still
didn't
had ties.
he won like an NAACP award and stuff like that.
Racist
For his work.
organization.
But I'm just saying. I mean, like I said, I think the points that I think Trump did bring up good points with the when he hit at Biden over the crime bill and the I don't even know if he mentioned the busing thing, but that's like what that's what he should have done with COVID. When he was talking about that, it was that same stuff. But again, he's blaming Biden for stuff that happened 30 years ago, and then last night he can't even denounce white supremacy in like 2020. So
when did he ever support?
But yeah,
when did Trump ever support white supremacy?
He never really supported it, but he never really he never said anything bad about it either. He always kind of plays like the both sides argument. Like, remember back? I don't remember. It was like Charlottesville. What was it? Charlottesville, where there was like, people with tiki torches,
I mean,
a bunch of white supremacists
he
there.
denounced white supremacy during that whole Charlotte thing. They just actually took half of his statement and took it all out of context and created a whole fake news article, which then went headline and viral on CNN and all these companies. So now that they say it must be true, and that seems to be kind of how it went. If you go and actually read a statement, it wasn't supporting supremacy at all.
Yeah, the only thing I heard was there's bad people on both sides. That was like the only.
Before that, he said all the white supremacists should stand down. He did say that before, and the second half of it is the only thing that got spread around. So Kipper is correct. But the question is, last night it would have been super easy for him to do the same thing again, and yet he didn't.
They said they said whatever they said to white supremacists, and they said who? They literally just said white supremacists. Like,
well, he said, "Tell me an organization," because in today's world, like Antifa and these, what's the other one? BLM are like straight up organizations that have like a grounded statement and an ideology that they live by. I mean,
why did it need to be an organization? Why couldn't he just say white supremacists? Like, I would denounce racist people. They're not an organization.
Well, because what's white supremacy look like, right? I mean, I'm white Caucasian. Am I a supremacist?
If you think white people are like the supreme race and they should have special treatment, then you are. If you don't, then you're not.
No, I don't. I don't even think these things have a place in politics, to be honest. Irrelevant.
Well, they don't have a place in society, period. But
no, they don't. I think if people have an opinion on whatever they have an opinion on, they can have that opinion. But I don't think it has a place in Congress, White House, Senate. I don't even think it's a political issue.
You don't think white supremacy is a political issue in a country made up of many races of people?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
You want me to tell you why?
Not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Because if you're whatever race you are and you want to live your life the way you want to live it in this country, you can, right? We don't live in a communist country. Anybody can go and live a life that they want to live, right? So let's say I'm black and I want to go get a job over here. I'm going to go over there and go and get a job. And if they say, no, I don't get a job, which happens to white people too, you go somewhere else and you just keep fighting the good fight as everybody does in this country.
Black people are statistically less likely to get interviewed for jobs in America.
And where is this white supremacists who choose to be violent and take other people's lives? Like, it literally affects other people. It's not just their own life that we're talking about. There's a lot of white supremacist acts of violence.
That's a law and order thing. That has nothing to do with like a president. A president has no control over somebody going into a community and shooting it up. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with
the law is literally funded by the government, though. The police is funded by the government. It's literally a political issue.
The law is written as such that all men are created equal under the rule of law, right?
Exactly.
It wasn't like that, though, until the Emancipation Proclamation, I believe, when black people were only given 3/5 rights. So we have a background of it not being equal, which I think bleeds into why there is white supremacy now and why it is in politics. Because if it's not in politics, then where is it solved?
Yeah. Politics is all about solving problems in our country, right? Or like making it better. And so if there are certain people who are white supremacists in the country, I don't know how that's can't be an issue in politics. It can be.
I think
objectively
it all comes down to a personal issue or a community issue,
Alright.
I don't think there's white supremacy in every state, in every county, in every school, and all that stuff. I mean,
No.
I really don't think it exists.
No, he was just asking Trump to disavow the small. It's probably a small group that are white supremacists. He's just asking him publicly. You got the world looking at you. Can you just tell these white supremacists to stop doing what they're doing? That was the only part of the debate that he got quiet right there because he was thinking. He was doing calculus in his mind. What should I say? What should I say? I don't want to lose any votes. And I don't know. It's pretty pathetic to me.
Whereas
I think
Biden was quick to disavow violence and riots.
Right.
So it kind of showed a contrast there.
Yeah.
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 Maybe it was done
I mean,
intentionally.
Yeah. But, I think that was kind of more of an even-sided point of the night. Trump did bring up the points, even though he had that gaffe for not denouncing white supremacists, which
I think he announced it today when they asked him about it again. Like, you had one opportunity to denounce it, and
Yeah.
he did. I mean, if you watch the clip today, he elaborates on it. So
The problem is the debate happened last night, and the headlines are already out there.
Oh, I know. But you also had Wallace talking over him in that moment, Biden saying things too. And I'm saying that in the same situation, there was plenty of things that Biden was talking about that he got thrown off because interruptions. So, like, I get it. I totally get it. People like stumbling over words, things like that. I mean, it was a complete shit show. I mean, we all agree upon that. It was a complete shit show, and everyone was talking over each other. What I want to see on the next debate is two people, and like I said, they have to be put in booths where they're like, your 2 minutes is up, and then it goes silent, and do that. Like, put two recording booths on stage, with glass that you can see. I don't know what it is, but mute them once their 2 minutes is up, or mute them.
They usually have like a public translator to like translate what they're saying, but like in a non-combative way. What is that?
I'm fine with the combativeness. Like, I'm fine with combativeness. I think that like when it's Trump's time to talk or it's Biden's time to talk, no candidate should be speaking up in that. And I don't think that on either side last night it was. I mean, truly. I mean, it was just a shit show. Like I said, any swing voter didn't get answer for themselves. I mean, that's the point of the debate because they know their base. Like, Trump, non-voters. Trump knows his base. Biden knows his base. People that are committed to voting for those people are already going to vote no matter what happened with the debate.
Right.
Nothing's going to change. But I think that most, undecided voters still have no idea what they're going to do because nothing was accomplished. Nothing whatsoever.
I agree with that, actually.
I don't even think it could have been resolved last night. Like, if Biden just shut up and didn't say anything and just smiled and laughed, I still don't think that would have been helpful for him no matter what, I just think that like he got steamrolled. And I mean, that's just Trump's natural attitude, unfortunately, for Biden. I don't think that Biden is that guy that is going to stand up and try to steamroll back. It's just not in his character. So, like I said, what I'd like to see next debate is people being able to speak. And I think that'll give the people that are undecided a clear picture of who they want their candidate to be. Because then it gives people the chance to elaborate on each of their things that they want to say. Like, Biden said, I don't support the Green Deal. Biden doesn't support maybe the Green Deal, but he has his own idea of what a Green Deal in his mind wants to be. And he already has that, how he wants it to be played out. So, yeah, he's not going to follow the far left Bernie bros who want it to be complete green energy. I mean, he understands that there's a transition period that's needed, but he wasn't able to elaborate on that. I mean, I know that, most people know that, but you didn't have that opportunity to elaborate. Nor do I think Trump had the opportunity to elaborate completely on the net denouncing of white supremacy. Do I think that he could have been handled better in the moment? Yes, he could have just said, I denounce all white supremacy groups, Proud Boys, this, that, this, and it would have been more impactful to so many people. And I think that in itself could have swayed a couple voters to be like, okay, cool. Trump is literally coming out. He's changed somewhat of his ways on how he talks or addresses situations. Maybe I can get behind this candidate. So I think debate 2 is going to be the most important debate. I think that if they can both get concrete information out to their bases or to, to the people that are swaying which way or the other, then I think they can really make an impact on where these votes will go. But I think that if they're going to continue to act like children and just be big babies and all of that, then nothing will be accomplished for anyone. And, I think that it's going to be a disservice to the American people from both sides of the parties.
We don't really think anyone won, I guess, is what we're trying to say. Or one voter,
No
won
one-
over voters yesterday.
No one here thinks there was a winner, right?
Not at all.
I think it was
I don't
just
think so either.
political theater, reviews, and video clips and sound bites for the headlines to run news for the next 7 days because they all suck.
Do you think any of them lost voters last night?
I just think they create a bunch of frustrated people.
I think they just solidified a lot of non-voters. Like people, like someone like me, like I don't really intend on voting in November. And after last night's debate, I'm pretty solid in that stance. Like I'm probably gonna sit this one out, to be honest, because they're both fucking
How
assholes.
come you're not going to vote?
What do you say?
I said, how come you're not going to vote?
Neither of them support policies that I believe in. I'm a Bernie bro.
You're burning, bro?
And they both shit on Bernie last night. They both shit on all the policies that I believe in. So why should I vote for either of them?
Is there a place in the world where those policies exist?
Sweden, Scandinavia.
Sweden?
They kick our ass in every objective way.
People in Sweden, the working class, do not like their taxes at all, and that's from being in Sweden this summer. Talked to my Uber driver, and he's like, "You have so much better opportunity in the U.S. than you do here." He's like, 45% of my income goes to taxes. I mean, granted, the city's beautiful, it's clean and all of that, but like,
So again, it comes back to like the human spirit. Like, what in this world do you enjoy doing, right?
How
You
many
wanna go live
Americans are happy with their fucking lives? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think it depends on the person, right? If you're like, I'm
Exactly.
happy, I'm thrilled with where I'm at in my life right now. It's like I do what I like to do. I got good family and friends. Like what else can you get? In this world.
And half the country makes like less than 40 grand a year or something like that. Like
That's
most
their
of the
choice.
country is very
Chipper,
unhappy,
you're not
struggling.
you're not the target demographic for these government programs because we all grew up in the same town. We all grew up in pretty well, right? We all are pretty well off, relatively speaking. So it's not meant for you. It's meant for people who need it, and you're not one of them.
Unless you care about those people who need it. Like I'm not one of those people either. I'm
Yeah.
fucking fine, but I'm still a Bernie bro. I still believe in those policies because I care about people who are fucked and who are downtrodden and don't have opportunity.
These government programs are funded by those people that need them, right? So most of the like majority of the taxpayer,
Not really.
most of the tax money is coming from the top wealth earners
Right.
of this country,
They
right?
don't need it.
In terms of dollars, it's coming from the top earners. In terms of
Mhm.
percentage of pays is coming from all of these people that use these programs, whatever those look like.
That's irrelevant. Percentage of dollars is coming from the top.
Of course.
So that's kind of all that matters.
I view taxes as an opportunity to pay for all the shitty things that nobody wants to actually have to deal with privately. Like, who's going to go fix the light outside on the street? I don't want to do that. So my tax dollars help my local government go fix that. I don't have to worry about it. Now, it's more the effective of how they use the tax dollars that I have problems with, but I think that a lot of the tax services offer more, just kind of fund that need for things that people just don't want to have to deal with on a daily basis. And I think if you can have an opportunity to have more social services with those taxes, it does help some of those more disenfranchised people.
Sure. I think a lot of the problem that exists, even like in this, just a stupid example in the state of New Jersey, it's like the gas tax, right? They're going to use all the gas tax to fix the roads, right? But then for somehow they run out of money and they need to continue to increase that tax, or they're using that tax money for something else, and there's just like zero accountability when it comes to government agencies, and that's my biggest problem with these agencies even existing. I think if there was more of a private sector held accountability, supply and demand kind of a way of doing it, I don't know what that looks like. I'm just talking out loud. I think it would be better.
Yeah.
You think private roads would be better? Private police departments?
Well, the thing is with the police departments is most of their budgets are coming already from their local communities. So I guess whether it's privatized or not. I mean, if
About prisons,
Private, yeah, that's a good one too.
like private prisons too.
What about private healthcare? I mean, we
I
objectively
don't know.
do worse than.
I think private healthcare is probably the best thing the world's ever seen. We have
Based
probably
on
the
what,
most
dude? Based on what?
We have the most innovative
Let's talk about
companies.
let's bring it back to the debate though, because they did talk about
Yeah, we gotta
healthcare.
rein it in.
I really want to fucking talk about healthcare, dude.
I know we can do all this. We'll have other episodes. I want to keep on the debate a little bit though, but
Okay,
they did
that's
bring
fair.
up healthcare.
They both suck, both candidates.
Yeah.
I agree. That's
Well,
I definitely common ground there, dude.
Well, you
Well-
want a one-payer system, right?
Of course
And
I
I
do.
I want more competition in the space to try to cost down.
Walter, what do you think about their views on healthcare in the debate yesterday? How did they handle it?
I don't remember, if I'm being honest.
Trump accused Biden of being in support of universal health care, which is inaccurate.
Oh yeah, that's just a straight up lie.
And Biden called Trump out on the increase in the number of deaths due to people losing health care under his administration.
One thing I will say is that Trump is not to blame
Which is
for
true, by the way.
all of the deaths. Like everybody's going around saying Trump killed 200,000 people personally. Obviously, that's false. Like a certain amount of people were going to die, even if we had Jesus Christ himself at the helm of our country. Like it was going to happen no matter what. So that's a little disingenuous there. Obviously, I don't think he handled it well.
Biden did bring up too was he tried to affirm his choice of having a private option. I think like a multiplayer type structure. Arnold, what do you think about
I mean,
it?
I thought
How they handle healthcare?
I don't really remember much of them talking about healthcare because it was like so quick.
It wasn't anything significant.
Yeah, it wasn't anything significant.
Yeah.
I think one point that Biden made. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that basically what I do remember now is that Biden said that, Trump, you came in 4 years ago, you said you were gonna have a plan, you said you're gonna repeal Obamacare, you had this whole thing that you were gonna do, and you haven't done anything, and you still don't have a significant plan. And as far as I can tell, that's true. He's just done nothing in that realm. I don't think he wants to. I think the conservative right-leaning position is to just keep everything the way it is. But Trump kind of messed up, and because he lied and said, "Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that," and he never did any of it.
And it is true that millions have lost healthcare under Trump's administration. Like the uninsured rate has increased substantially since 2016. That's because of his attacks on ACA, Affordable Care Act.
Lost their jobs.
A lot of jobs were lost.
And people had healthcare through their jobs.
Yeah,
Even before the pandemic, people were losing their health coverage.
that's not because of Trump's policy. That's all because of the Obamacare Act.
No, it's because of Trump's attacks on the Obamacare Act. Obamacare was objectively a step in the right direction. Can we agree on that, at least?
Well, I think, just from a personal experience, like just from like what my family's experience from it all, it's like I think the cost of premiums have 10x'd since Obamacare. So when you're talking about like affordability for people like us, it wasn't affordable. Maybe for people that can't afford healthcare that get it for free now because they're being subsidized by people like us. Now you're picking winners and losers financially in this country, which I don't think really has a place anywhere because it just creates more division and more upset people and all the things that are coming out from it.
Which is why you should support universal health care.
Yeah.
I'm against
'cause then
No, because
I'm so
a
against
universal
Everyone's a
healthcare-
winner, though.
No, because then there's no supply and there's no competition, there's no service, there's no
no
accountability.
service.
It's
No
just another
service.
government agency where there's just loads of fraud and nobody cares, and it's just a government program.
In London,
and that's how it works with universal healthcare.
in London, I've gone like a lot of clientele in London.
That's why we
They
have the
have-
best teeth in the world.
They've got private practices, right? Like they have the private practices, just like you do here, which we call concierge medicine, that you pay a fee to see the doctor, right? These people that have the socialized healthcare there will wait weeks to see their doctor for procedures, important procedures. Maybe to go see like, oh, I'm sick, my throat hurts. You go in and you'll see a doctor, they'll prescribe you medication and that's it. That's not how medicine should be done. Medicine should be done on a personalized and preventative way. And that's what my industry is all about. You need to prevent and you need to educate people. If that was going to be involved in this socialized healthcare, which it doesn't sound like it would be, because it's going to be basically what we have already as a primary care doctor, which is I go in, I see a doctor for 5 minutes, gives me my medication, I leave. Maybe I have a copay and all of that, but if I need a procedure, if I need something done, I need to get my appendix removed, or I need to get a tumor removed from my body, I can get that removed tomorrow. I can get that taken care of immediately.
No, not always. People wait for procedures like that in our system.
A tumor, yes, I can get removed. If it's cancerous, they will remove that shit tomorrow.
I think doctors should be held to the same accountability as most businesses. And let me finish that thought for a second. 1950s healthcare style, right, in this country. Just from parents' experience, just growing up, right? They had a family friend dentist. This is for most people in this country. They had a family friend dentist. They had somebody that specialized in this. They had somebody that specialized in that. And the doctor ran a good business. They probably had maybe a book of 50 clients in their community. There could have been maybe 20 or 30 different doctors in that community, which then served the entire community, right?
House calls,
these types of services that existed, and they were affordable because it had to be affordable, all right? The doctor would come, it'd be, let's say $50 to pay a visit. And then it cost you XYZ for whatever supplies you needed, and everybody had a nice day. Today, you have this centralized office in this centralized massive corporation that's getting subsidized by massive tax from the government and the insurance companies. And there's just central power already in our healthcare system, which just bloats the system because now they're hiring all these people to do these unnecessary jobs or paperwork or whatever it may look like for these insurance companies or the government agencies that need for reporting. And it just adds 10 times the expense that we need.
That's a
And
result of private healthcare, not public. The
That's-
bureaucracy
that's the
all
problem.
comes from the insurance companies. The
like
private
none of
insurance
that stuff being brought up, like that's the problem. Like none of it's been discussed. And watching that debate last night, it just frustrated me because all these things are an issue. You don't need a million administrative workers doing useless tasks that could probably all be automated through computer systems. Just cut the costs.
The reason, and a lot.
That's what universal healthcare accomplishes.
No, it doesn't.
It's less expensive than the private healthcare industry. You know that, right? There's been several studies on that.
less expensive
Loads of
than
studies
the-
on that.
It's
Even the
expensive.
Koch brothers funded a study that demonstrated that. They tried to prove the whole objective of the Koch brothers doing their study was to prove that universal healthcare is more expensive and that we shouldn't support it. And after all their research, they found the opposite.
I'm not so worried about
save
the
trillions.
expensive aspect. I'm more worried about losing the quality of care that I get here in the U.S. You have people that come to the U.S. from all over the world to get procedures done here because they know we
Rich
have the
people.
healthcare. We have the
Rich
best
people.
healthcare.
Saudi princes come to get their healthcare here. It's true, dude. Only rich people come here for healthcare.
All right.
We have the best technologies, the best healthcare. That's why people come here. That's why people get
If you're
procedures.
rich.
If you're
The thing is, though,
If you're
Biden
poor,
doesn't even.
not
This
a good
isn't even
system.
relevant, though. Biden doesn't want universal health care. Neither does Trump.
Yeah.
It's a great topic, and we're gonna hash it out.
Yeah, we obviously disagree on it, on what the best system is. I think basically what I got from it was Trump was accusing Biden of being for universal health care. Biden basically shit on Trump for the COVID response. And then I think he did mention expanding Obamacare and keeping a private option, which is not universal health care. The last topic I think I want to talk about that they brought up specifically was climate change. I don't know if you guys remember that section when Chris Wallace asked them about climate change. To be 100% honest, I was kind of tuned out by then also. So
They're blaming arson on climate change.
they would blame what?
I said they were pretty much blaming arson and the fires in California on climate change.
Okay. So
No, Trump was blaming like the forestry, wasn't he? Like the way they
Yeah.
their forest.
If only we had better forest management, then we wouldn't have forest fires, I guess. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Actually, no, because if you go to these countries that have a lot of forests, what they do is they create football field lengths in between.
Yeah. They don't have the climate of California, though.
yeah.
That's the
Well-
big variable that he's not thinking about.
There's also poor planning on these homes too, right? Like if you knew you're going to be building in a dry climate like this, why are you building houses on the outside of a golf course when you should be building the houses on the inside of a golf course in a dry area of California? You know, I mean, there's also planning that's supposed to go into building homes, right? Especially based on climate, based on where the sun rises and sun sets. I mean, Ralphie, you remember in ArchiCAD when we were learning about, building the house and having majority of the lights on the east side of the house when the sun's rising, so you're not using as much energy. I mean, like, there's planning that needs to go into that, which I think, not saying that, 50 years ago they would have known about this, but I'm saying new homes, and a lot of people move to California every year because it's like one of the most, I think, in my personal opinion, one of the most beautiful states in the whole entire country. You get
Definitely
everything.
is.
Forest, you get the beach, you get the mountains, you get amazing landscapes and all of that. But if you're building new communities, then why are you not taking the steps to be prepared for something like this? Not saying that that's going to be the end
Well,
of the thing.
they didn't really bring it up much last night, like any solutions either.
I don't even think a government program could fix any of these issues. Nothing to do with the government.
Do you think? Well, let's just start here. Do you think climate change is contributing to the increase in these deadly forest fires and
No.
storms and all the shit? You
No.
don't think it's a contributing factor at all?
We've had these types of disasters for hundreds and thousands of years, hundreds of years, been going on.
Not the same level.
That's based off what? Sensationalism of news.
Data.
That's
Based on scientific fact, like stats and data.
Okay, and who's funding those scientific facts and data? Where is it being funded, and what's the?
It's mixed. There's private funding that goes into college. There's government funding that goes into research. I think 99% of scientists all agree that climate change exists and says that humans are causing it. You look at the rising temperatures of our planet consecutively over the past 2 decades.
So what do you want us to do? Do you want?
You look at what happened when coronavirus lockdown happened and how the emissions levels went down. I think there's a lot of data that supports it.
Yeah, what did that do though for us?
Well, I'm not saying lock everyone down, but I'm saying you put restrictions on emissions. Like, I don't think a windmill is going to cause cancer. It's actually a very efficient form of getting energy that's pretty clean.
One of the cleanest fossil fuels out there right now that is mostly what's powering our electric plants is natural gas. Super clean. It barely pollutes the air. It doesn't do anything to the environment that's harmful, and it's super affordable. So if you like your electric bill to be $50 a month and you want to see that at $500 a month, then get rid of that natural gas. You know what I mean? That's what we're proposing here.
Johnny, didn't California have like a bunch of blackouts because of like
course,
or management of their energy.
of course, and
No,
all
my
of
power was because it was an actual issue with I had to call an electrician out here.
Not you, but majority of California, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a ton of blackouts over the summer.
and all the crazy politicians,
higher than what it usually is.
all the crazy politicians and the Hollywood elites live in their mansions with generators. So when everybody loses power based on their stupid failed policies, they're sitting there in their mansions with generators running their refrigerators and air conditioning. They don't care.
Here's the
Oh,
thing
by
with
the way,
climate.
Those generators are off fossil fuel.
Here's the thing with climate change, right? There's three parts to climate change, right? There's the first question that we already started, Ralphie brought up is the earth getting warmer? Is the climate changing? The second one is it mostly man-made? And the third one is, should we even do anything about it? Is it even worth doing anything about it? The problem that I have is that the first one, is the earth getting warmer? It is. And there's tons of data to prove it. And you can argue it, but you'll be wrong every time because you can go online and you can just see we record the temperatures of the earth. You can just see it. So the fact that Republicans and Trump feel that they need to argue that first point when it's so objectively false, it's just a huge problem. And we can the second one isn't man-made. That's more debatable. You could say, well, maybe it's not. Maybe there's something going on with the sun. And then the third one, what should we do about it? Should we, handicap businesses in order to fix the problem? Is it even going to do what we need it to do? I would like to have that conversation, but we can't even get there because Trump and half the country are just denying that first point that the earth is getting warmer. And it's extremely frustrating.
Well, the thing is that, again, back to what I always like to say, is a government policy and a president has nothing to do with the innovation that the private sector has developed for us over the last 50 years in terms of technology and efficiencies in our cars and all the things that go along with everything that you're seeing in today's world.
Yeah, Elon.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They create tax incentives.
They incentivize the fossil fuel industry, and that's how we have what we have now.
Yeah, they create tax incentives, but spending bills and programs to spend money doesn't actually change anything. It just creates fraud and buddies to create winners and losers in the economy. And it's just taking money from the taxpayer, stealing it, by the way, because it's not representative government, and giving it to the people that they choose to give it to, whether it's their friends or their family or whatever the hell that looks like.
You know that taxes and incentives are the same thing, right? They're just the opposite.
Tax incentives are fine. I'm fine with taxes.
Taxes and incentives, they're the same thing. One is a penalty and one is a reward. So if you incentivize the fossil fuel industry, that's good. If you penalize it, that's good too. You can create business, or you can.
I think the fossil fuel industry is super efficient, super clean, and I think most people, because I'm friends with people down in Texas that are in the Dow chemical industry, right? They have the best chemicals and the best infrastructure to make sure that the environment is protected from getting polluted. And those chemicals are proven to be non-harmful to animals and society and life that exists around it. I'm sure there's situations that go bad on oil fields and stuff like that, but that's just the nature of the beast. I don't think overall that has any sort of significance in the role of climate. And number one. Number two, when you talk about the increase of temperatures, the average increase of the global temperature, the amount of degree that it's increased over the last 100 or 200 years is almost insignificant to the discussion at hand.
It's not what scientists are saying.
It's the whole discussion.
Depends on if you believe in science or not. That's how I view climate change.
Yeah, I really just.
I mean, I don't know what I believe, to be honest with you, in terms of the science world. It depends on who's funding it and what the agenda is.
I mean, go take a bag and stick it on your exhaust pipe of your car or like a truck, and then do the same with like a Prius or an electric car, and then select which bag you want to breathe that air out of, because there's going to be a big difference. Methane.
What you have to understand is that that's almost an irrelevant topic, because the plants and the trees and all these things, they use carbon monoxide to live. Carbon dioxide to live. Right? You breathe out carbon dioxide, right? So it's like that's the way.
That's not what comes out the car. So what comes out the car is what's heating up. Carbon monoxide is what comes out the car exhaust pipe, and that's what's causing the planet to heat up.
Here's my thoughts.
And it's objectively harmful because people literally kill themselves by
because
sitting in their garage with their car on.
Right.
Here's my thoughts on this. So I think that we do play a factor into global warming. I'm not against global warming. I think it's there. Do I think that the just how the world is and how how like the Earth just is as a whole? I mean, I think it does heat up, and that's just there's definitely a factor of that too. I think that the big thing is, I think that we do need to start finding ways to do alternative energy. Not saying to cut fossil fuels or cut, these other energy sources that we use. I think that like an organization. I mean, if you think about it, like Elon Musk creating the electric car, I think that's great. There should be somebody of Elon Musk's stature that's going to create hydrogen-powered fuel cells, for 18-wheelers, for maybe steam engines or ships. I don't think that the government's going to help create jobs like that. I think that there's going to be tax breaks and things like that, but I think that there needs to be a step up from the private sector to create jobs that are going to be focusing on renewables. And I think
What's the
that the next
incentive for them to do that, though? Why would they
tax.
do that?
Why?
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless
you
the
have a bunch
government
of-
provides some
you
sort of
have
incentive.
you have half the country. You have half the country here, like you all just said, that doesn't that believes in climate change to the full, right? So why aren't these people, the ones that have money, these one percenters, Jeff Bezos or Twitter's CEO? What are these people? Why aren't they coming together to fund a project?
Is capitalism.
There's nothing in it. For
Elon,
What's in it for them?
money. Look at Elon. Elon's going to have the most advanced electric car on the market. And anyone now that's going to come behind him, whether it be GM or whoever, that's going to say, yeah, we're going to do a battery-powered car, is not going to have the technology that Elon and Tesla has. And no one's self-driving car is going to be even close to Elon's, because the amount of data that he's picked up on every single car that's a Tesla that's driven on the road. So, Elon's a private guy. He funded this. There was definitely, he lost money in the beginning of it, but Tesla's going to be a profitable company. Tesla is going to be the wave of the future. Whether it be Tesla that's going to be the car, Tesla technology, the fuel cell that it's created is going to be, that battery is going to be used amongst all electric cars moving forward. What I'm saying is Elon's not a car guy. Elon wasn't an engineer. Elon was a computer whiz that made video games growing up. He sold off his company Zip2, got involved with financials, online banking, which who is he to do that? He wasn't a finance guy or anything. And then somehow got involved with shooting rockets to space and now making cars. This guy is an entrepreneur. He's smart in every way, shape, or form. He knew the people to get in touch with. He built the teams. Maybe it wasn't him designing it, but he was the one that's putting it all together. And all these guys have built organizations. They've built their companies. They've built Facebook from the ground up. They built Microsoft. If there's seriously a concern on their behalf, why aren't they coming together to build something? Whether it be getting behind PowerPlug, who builds fuel-powered, hydrogen-powered batteries. Why aren't they getting behind that to help advance the technology? So those are
I think most of us actually agree with you. I mean, why aren't they? Why aren't these people doing more?
Well, it's because half the country thinks it's not real because the president and Tucker Carlson told them that it's all fake.
It doesn't matter. A lot of people told Elon Musk his dream was shit. And he said, fuck you, I'm going to complete my dream to build this electric car.
All I'm saying is it would be cool if our president was on board and just got everybody on the same page. Yes, it's real. We should be moving in this direction, but that's not what he's doing.
Yeah, but
I don't think government taxation and stealing money from people in the name of health, in the name of environment, has any relevance. You know what I mean?
I think it's better than in the name of war.
That's what's being proposed. Let's steal people's money in the name of environment. There's no solution there. It's just stealing people's money.
My thought is if they can come up.
You think they care about your environment?
It's not stealing money though, because if you pollute in a river, you get fined. That's kind of what the government does. That's part of their
fine.
role.
It's more placing
fine.
restrictions on the companies, not people. It's actually the company and how they're taxed, not the actual like owner of the company. Obviously, they have a stake in it, but when they're placing more restrictions on companies, so they create more fuel efficient, environment friendly products, and they hold the company accountable, not the individual worker. They're not going to get taxed any differently working at ExxonMobil. And a lot of these companies, as we already said earlier, don't even pay taxes right now.
If you think those restrictions don't add to the cost of doing business for these companies, then you're crazy. And that cost just gets passed on to the consumer.
The gas companies already have these huge incentives. Like they have a huge tax break. All you gotta do is take it away from them and make them play fair with everybody else.
Why should you do that?
Why shouldn't they pay taxes?
They're not doing any harm to the environment. The way they
Yeah,
do.
they are.
You know?
They are-
Do
I
you
think
know
they
that?
are.
It goes back to that first
Because
point of the three, the 3 points that you made earlier, Walter.
Are you an expert in fracking?
No, but
are you
no,
an
but
expert
the
in
experts
like,
say
mining?
that.
Who
I
are those?
listen to the experts.
Who are those experts? Talking heads on
Scientists. No. The scientific community who's way smarter than you and me and everybody else on this podcast. I'm just listening to what they say.
How about the scientists and engineers that develop the technology and all the things that go ahead with these companies that they spend billions of dollars investing in to make sure that they're protecting the environment? The exact reasons why they would be going out of business or getting fined trillions of dollars from the government if they weren't protecting the environment. You know what I mean?
a lot of the
about those-
scientists are, I think a lot of them work for universities.
Right.
So
Communist
they're not
stuff.
really invested in. They're not really
They're also-
invested in.
Universities.
Those
They're also
companies.
like left wing
Universities
communists.
are just far left.
You
Majority
know,
of professors are leaving more left.
they're just straight communists.
So I think that's very biased in many ways.
Yeah, I take
Why
zero.
Why do you guys think that though? What is driving you to say that all the scientists are wrong? Is it just a gut feeling? Like you have a feeling like they're just trying to scam us? Like what is it?
Yeah, I do.
What's in
It
it for
is.
them?
It's exactly what it is. The entire thing's a sham. It is a scam,
It's
and
a
all they
giant
want to do is-
conspiracy. Everybody's in on it, and we're all fools.
Who's funding these people? Who funds the university? Federal taxpayer
donors.
dollars from these government
Nope.
bureaucrats.
Tuition payers.
Tuition payers and there's private donors. I mean, there are donors that'll.
It
do
all
that,
exists.
but
Alumni.
It all exists. And why has all this stuff increased in price over the last 30 years or in the last 10 years? 10x?
inflation.
Inflation, right? So inflation is 1 or 2% a year or whatever it is, but yet over the last 10 years, the price of college has gone up significantly more than that. How come?
Capitalism.
Yeah, that's a whole other
I
topic.
can't.
Bullshit.
It's not capitalism.
I can get
It
the
is,
same
though.
education I got at university
market.
for like $1,000 online.
What's to stop them from charging more tuition? Nothing. So why wouldn't they?
Nothing.
They can make more
Because
money.
the whole government's in on lending the money. All it is. The government has been in control of the lending of the money since 2009. And if you look at the increase in rates of costs since 2009, that's the period I'm talking about. The government's taken over.
What's the motive? What's the end goal? You gotta lay out for me something cohesive as to why everybody is lying about this stuff.
Money. They want money. They want your money.
Explain to me
How could they
how they're gonna
steal
get my money based on fake research.
taxes, government programs, everything that you're proposing and pushing for? The more they can regulate a company, and the more they can and create these costs, prohibition. These things, those costs. It's dollars that comes out of your pocket, the end consumer.
Okay.
If you get rid of
Alright,
fossil-
Yeah. No, I get your point. What about fossil fuel lobbyists who pay like senators directly?
I don't think all that stuff is kosher. I don't think anybody should be doing any of that stuff. Nobody goes down to Washington and lobbies for me. Why should these corporations be doing that?
But it is happening.
But-
I know it's happening. I'm not a fan of it.
And that's why it's 99% instead of 100.
Yeah.
What?
Because of shit like that. The scientific
99%.
community. The scientific community would be at 100% agreement about climate change if it wasn't for that kind of shit. Lobbyists and actual fake science funded by the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah. I think the other danger of not taking it seriously is kind of the innovative progress you can have. I think it can put us behind other countries that are.
You want to know how you know that there's innovation and not innovation? Is look at the efficiencies of cars over the last 10, 15 years. If you look at consumerism in the automotive world, yes, there's people that buy efficient cars, right? People don't really care about the efficiencies of their cars.
A lot of people, I care.
I'm not saying there are people that don't care. I know there are people that do care. What I'm saying is the vast majority, you look at the market, economic, consumerism, people's spending habits, capitalism, most do not care about the efficiencies of their car. How do you know? Because most people were buying gassers before the 2008 oil rush, and then as soon as that happened, that hurt the economy, that hurt the market, right? But then companies figured out how to make these cars more efficient, and here we are today. We have efficient cars and cheap gas, and what are people doing? They're buying SUVs. It's the number one selling car in this country right now is an SUV. Much larger than the average sedan 15, 20 years ago.
I think there's other factors in play on why people buy cars, but certainly it could be the case.
Another reason how
You're the consumer, and you're the one
is
that's
Tesla makes a beautiful car, right? It's the most innovative electric car company in the world. We can all agree on that. But the only way that they're really profitable is because they're actually selling their tax credits that the government gives them to other companies that sell gasoline cars, that happen to sell more gasoline cars than Tesla does.
Americans just like big ass fucking cars.
Good, and let them fucking have them. Let them have big ass fucking cars if that's what they want.
They made
Who are you?
a Escalade that's a hybrid now. I mean, I like some
Fantastic.
of the things they've done with these cars because of the regulations. I know.
Are you buying it?
No, I have a Civic. Pretty good on gas mileage.
They are good on gas mileage, but nobody's buying the hybrid Escalade. That's why GM's probably going to go out of business because they spend this money on these stupid things that nobody buys.
I think an Escalade itself is dumb, so I would just get rid of the car entirely.
The whole thing comes down to economic across the board. It has nothing to do with climate change. Straight up.
I think if we leave it, you're kind of convincing me that if we leave it up to the free market, we're gonna continue to pollute this planet and fuck this planet up. You're kind of convincing me that we need government control, if anything. Because if you leave it up to consumers and businesses, they're just going to keep producing what people want, and people are going to keep buying what they want.
North Korea, they control their population in North Korea. There's 0 cars on the road. If you want to go live in a place that's got no pollution.
Here's the thing, though.
Rather
like,
extreme example, dude.
Even if you don't believe in that the Earth is getting warmer or whatever, you don't think that the science is real and there's a big conspiracy and whatever, don't you think that it's a good idea to get away from fossil fuels just because there's only a certain amount on the planet and eventually they'll run out? Do you not think that's a good idea?
Let the private sector create something that people demand, and there's your answer. It's not a government tax.
You didn't answer my question at all. We're going to run out of oil eventually. What happens then?
Well, somebody will create something.
Or we could do it now. Get out ahead of it.
Mining lithium ion.
That's the problem.
Hold on a second. The problem is mining lithium ion is more dangerous to the environment, creating these freaking batteries, than it is to burn fossil fuel. Straight up. If you want to go live in a cave like a caveman back it did, thousands of years where none of these things existed and people lived to maybe 30 years old because there wasn't a quality of life, then we can do that. That's what we're proposing here.
No one's proposing that. All we're saying is that the government should just tweak the levers a little bit to incentivize us to get away from fossil fuels. Everybody would win.
Yeah. Walter or Arnold, you were going to say something, and then I want to wrap up. We're kind of running long.
Yeah, here's the thing. And like I said earlier, is you have all these people that are, and I will say, I mean, there's a lot of multi-billionaires that complain about these things, but yet have tried to change the way that we go about this. Elon Musk is going about this in his own way, and he did it on his own with people saying you're fucking nuts. Why can't Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and a lot of these far left, or just not even far left, just leaning left type individuals come together who are very concerned about, the way that the climate change is affecting the world and everything? Why aren't they coming together to build anything?
Because they don't care.
Because they don't lean left.
No, they just don't
They
care.
don't lean left.
Well, I don't know
Jeff
about
Bezos does not lean left.
Jeff
Far from
Bezos
it,
actually just replaced
Radical leftist Jeff Bezos.
He just replaced in all of his
He's a genius, by the way.
in his warehouses. He replaced all of the forklifts with hydrogen fuel cell forklifts. So that's one positive thing that he's doing. But what I'm saying is
Super amazing.
Yeah, super amazing. But what I'm saying is there's no one stopping these people from putting together an idea and creating something, whether it be hydrogen, more efficient hydrogen power, more efficient, windmills, whatever it may be.
Windmills don't do anything.
I beg to differ.
They create power.
Hey, but go back to like a Trumpism. How funny was that? Have you ever seen him in a speech where he's like talking about windmills and like the husband and wife wake up and looks outside and, hey darling, is the wind blowing this morning?
It's just like I just think that
has anybody seen that speech where he did that?
Yeah, no doubt.
So funny.
I just think that like Kipper was saying, is this is a consumer-driven market, and I think that if people really want change, then large corporations that are concerned about this should really genuinely step up and come together and invest in creating a company to.
But people don't want the change, though. That's the thing. Like, just like Kipper was saying,
But they won't do anything.
Listen,
It's all talk.
If
It's all
you
talk.
disrupt all of these things with your climate change stuff, whatever that looks like, right? That means you're going to create shortages of food. You're going to create shortages of all these things for people to not be able to consume because the supply chain
transition. You have to slowly transition. I'm not saying that.
even the Green New Deal has a transition period. It's not just like over fucking night, dude.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that there's going
Really?
to be a transition period
Yes.
that you need to move. There has to be a transition.
What's
period.
that look
There's no-
like?
I don't know, but I'm saying that there's
I don't know how many years, but it's definitely a transition period.
There needs to be a start.
It's
That's
not an
where I
instant
believe
thing.
it's smart. We are going to hit our max on oil. We are going to hit that point, and I think
Not
the
for
year,
hundreds of
no,
years.
no, we're going to hit our max point, the peak point by 2050, and at that point on the curve, it's the demand or the supply is going to continue to drop, and at that the prices are going to shoot up.
Correct.
So
So
at
if
that
you guys
point-
want to invest your money wisely, buy oil.
So what?
Nice mic drop.
Basically, what I'm saying. So what I'm getting, I think Ralphie Walter agree with climate change. More needs to be done to incentivize the companies not to pollute and all that.
I'm not even saying that. All I want is for our president to just agree that it's real because objectively it is. And if you think
never said-
otherwise, you're
Said
wrong.
it's
Yes, he
never
did. Yes, he
Well,
did.
on the debate, he didn't really mention whether it was real or not. He kind of just said, "I want clean water, clean air. We have the cleanest air." I think the three of us agree. Kipper, you don't think it exists.
No, never said that.
Okay, you don't think it's man-made.
I
You
don't
don't think
think
humans
government-
impact
I
it.
don't think government taxation and coercion and all the thievery that they're
Intervention.
talking about doing is actually going to do anything. No, I don't think it's.
Okay,
relevant.
so you think we're not gonna be able to do anything?
I don't think a
for it.
president, or government agency, or some sort of bureaucrat that sits in Washington D.C. with their marble walls really is going to do anything. No.
Do you think anyone could do anything to help?
Yeah,
stop it?
you're seeing it happen. You're seeing innovation in the private sector for the last 100 years, 50 years, whatever that looks like in technology that's creating efficiencies and better things for the environment. We have a much cleaner environment today than we did in the 1970s.
And then Arnold, you're kind of in agreement, but you seem more like you you just want better options than what they have now. Is that valid?
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree. I agree with you guys in the sense of that I believe that there is, like, I'm not denying, climate change and global warming or anything like that. What I want to see is everyone that's bitching about it needs to actually step up and do something about it. And I don't think that it's going to start in government. I think that if companies, private sectors start popping up, like Elon, who is creating something that's going to change the way that you and I get around, I think then government should step in. Government, if there's a plan in the private sector of, okay, well, we've created this car or this technology that will move us away from fuel-powered cars, or we're going to use this flowing water to create hydrogen power so we can get rid of these plants, and this hydrogen power is efficient, then I can say, cool, let the government step in, let them start going ahead and saying, all right, we're going to tax you more or do this or give you tax incentives. There's no plan there. There's no technology that we have out there yet. Not even Tesla. Tesla's not even mainstream enough that like everyone can afford it. Yeah, it's definitely more reasonable, but you can't just lease a Tesla. You have to outright buy it. So what
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
can lease
getting
them.
at, you can? Oh, well, I didn't
Yeah.
know that. So what I'm getting at though is I just believe that, all right, then Tesla's further along, and that's amazing. But 5 years ago that you couldn't do that with Tesla. Not even 3 years ago you could do that with Tesla. So what I'm just saying is more companies need to be popping up like Tesla and what Elon are looking to accomplish before government should step in and really start moving things around. That's my belief.
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of fall more in line with Ralphie and Walter. I think government should incentivize active companies now, like the oil companies, to come up with these cleaner methods. Going back to the debate, they didn't really talk about it that much. I mean, Biden kind of did back away from the Green New Deal. He does have a plan. I don't know the details of it off the top of my head, but it's not like the Green New Deal. Okay, I'm gonna put like 2 minutes on the clock again because I feel like we could just keep going. I want to just do final thoughts. Wrap up, kind of maybe summarize what you said today, how you feel the debate went. I think this kind of started off as we were going to talk about the debate, but I kind of liked the direction it went, and we kind of debated some of the topics that they brought up yesterday that we didn't get a chance to hear either candidate speak on. So I'm actually pretty happy with some of the conversations we had today. We should definitely do this again for the next debate. But let's start. We'll go in the same order. Walter, give you 2 minutes for final thoughts on the debate and kind of how we debated those topics today.
I think we did a better job than they did last night. Just saying, guys.
I
So
agree.
Yeah.
hats off to us. Like we
Amen
got
to
way
that.
more in depth. That's the thing, man. With these debates, you never get any depth. It's just like Kipper was saying. It's just like headlines, like talking points, bullet points, whatever. I guess to summarize, the debate sucked. It was pretty hard to watch. There were a few points where I think Biden was stronger. There was a few points where I think Trump was stronger. I think overall it's probably a wash. And I don't know about. I think the future moderators are going to be even further. I mean, again, I don't think Wallace is left at all. He's pretty right down the middle. But I think the next two are actually scheduled to be further biased, I guess, if you will. So prepare for it to be even more of a shit show than we've already had. And I think most people have already voted. Not most people, but a lot of people have voted already anyway. So I don't even know how much this really matters. And that's one thing that we never got into, which it's a shame. The voter fraud stuff.
Hey,
We're gonna have to. No, I said shame. Close enough. We're gonna have to do that at some point. The whole voter fraud scandal,
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it now. We can do wrap ups after that. I'll just have to cut out some. No, let's wrap it up. Okay.
Arnold's giving us the. He's got a heart out.
As long as I don't have a hard on, that's all that matters. right? No hard out, no hard on though.
You know, I'm all pro hard-ons. You guys
Only
aren't.
for you.
Okay, anyway. Walter, you have 25 more seconds if you have anything else to say.
I don't. I'm gonna concede.
Kipper, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I think that as a human race, we've seen societies go through dictatorships where ego will run the path of people's lives. And in America, we've lived a life of good conscience over the course of our existence for the most part. There are some parts of our history that aren't necessarily done on good conscience. And I suspect that since we are such a bright country onto the world, onto the nations, we are probably one of the most successful countries because of that. And I think if we continue to drive our society through good conscience and not ego, this country will prevail. And I think that that should be the forefront of all of our lives, whether it's personal and or government. And that's what I have to say.
Ralphie? Final thoughts?
I mean, I guess I'm kind of in the minority here because I'm pretty far left. Definitely identify with the Bernie camp more than anybody. It just seems like both parties are running 1,000 miles per hour away from what I view as the solutions. So there's kind of like no one there representing my ideology. So I don't know. I find it just disappointing. I think the debate is just a massive disappointment, and I don't see myself voting in November, to be honest with you. And I just wish that there was more parties, or I just wish the Democrats were better or something. I just wish there was more options, I guess, at the end of the day. Something else for me to vote for, because I don't want to vote for these two assholes at all.
You always write in someone else's name.
I have a question for you.
Go for it.
Based off of my little spiel there, you know, talking about conscience and ego and these things. If you look at history in terms of like a Bernie camp, right, and their policies that have existed in this world and other countries that completely destroyed them. When you say you're far left and these things that you want, right, those things exist in this world, and those people that live in those countries do not live a better life than we do. That's financially, whether that's food, productivity, that's like all of these things.
You're opening up a lot of can of worms here, man.
I know, and it's at the end of the whole thing, but like these things exist, you know, these government types of egomaniacs that run countries.
I'll say two things.
Yeah,
one
45
thing is,
seconds.
it depends on which left-leaning countries you're looking at. If you're talking about Venezuela or China, then that's a different discussion than if you're talking about Scandinavia. That's the first point I'll make. Second point I'll make is free market capitalism is what led to the Great Depression. The New Deal is what led us to getting out of it, which is a left-leaning position.
100% wrong, number one, in my opinion. Number two, if you go and you look at the central banks and the way the financial sector is set up in this world, the only reason why Europe, in terms of its existence, exists is because of the U.S. currency. We, the United States taxpayers, fund these countries and their banking system.
They existed way longer before we did.
I'm talking about financial.
Just wanted to throw that out there. They've been around much longer than us.
Talking about from a financial perspective.
Ralphie, you have any final things?
I mean, I'm pretty much done on my spiel.
All right.
Fuck both of the parties. They both suck.
Arnold?
So here's my thoughts. Debate sucked. All candidates are old, crusty, and shouldn't be fucking running. I think that a lot of good points were made tonight in the chat. I think a lot of us were able to elaborate on certain things, which was good. But overall, I'm really disappointed with how these debates are probably going to go, and I don't think that anyone's really going to get true answers that they want from these debates. So Yeah, and I don't know. I think that we're in for a fucking shit show the next couple months. That's it.
Alrighty. Well, real quickly, my final thoughts. I think, I agree with all you guys. The debates kind of sucked. I don't really care about the next presidential one, but I'm looking more forward to the vice presidential one. I'm hoping we'll get more policy out of that, but we'll see. I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one, but I think that there were some good points made tonight, and I think we definitely disagree on a lot of issues. But the whole point of this podcast is to kind of hash it out in here and just open up that discussion. And I think we were able to do that. We probably weren't able to elaborate on everything as much as we wanted to, but we can continue this moving forward. But ultimately, it was, I think, like Walter said, we did a better job of debating these than the candidates did yesterday. I mean, I don't even think that was even a debate last night. It was just a shouting match with sprinkles of policy. But yeah, I think we did a good job. I'd say the common ground we found here was debates stunk yesterday. Not really sure if we found any other common ground, at least between all five of us. But it's good to get some conflicting voices in here than Ralphie and Walter and myself. So thanks for joining us, Kipper and Arnold. And yeah, any last things you guys want to say?
I just wanted to say, Arnold, my boy, much love to you, brother. Even if we get into it, it gets heated. Still got love for you, buddy.
Much love for you too, man. The only thing that I would and I know I have a temper, and I know that I take things personal at times, is sometimes I just feel like some of the attacks are personal towards me. They come off condescending. I know that it's not malicious, but for me, that hits me differently than it may hit anyone else in the chat. So the only thing that I would say is just be a little bit easier with me, dude. Don't be so hard on me.
All right, man.
Come on, man.
You know I'm sensitive, dude.
Come on, man.
All right, buddy. I can do that.
I feel I'm a pretty sensitive guy as well, so I'm with you on that, Arnold. So yeah, thanks for coming on. I want to do cheers to everyone on here. Have a good, safe week. And
hey, man, wear your masks. My body, my choice.
There you go.
Instant contradiction, dude.
News, politics, culture, current events. We all have different views, but we stand on common ground. We all have different views, but we stand on common ground.